And welcome back to the Greg Struss Show, coming to you almost live and almost direct from Cable Television City here in the west side of Chicago. Great show tonight. We're going to be talking about milestones, okay, because I've had several milestones in my life recently, and maybe you have too. Also going to talk a little bit about dual diagnosis, all right? We're going to be moving beyond the whole addiction thing, but I always find it interesting to talk about some of these things because there's a lot of misinformation out there about addiction, okay? So if somebody has like an underlying mental component in addition to addiction, okay, and there's many forms of addiction. You know, you have smoking, you have drinking, you have television, you have food, you have sex, all kinds of things. So now, you know, people are seeking help for different addictions. And one of the things to keep in mind is the dual diagnosis. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So milestones and dual diagnosis. But as we begin tonight, word was released via the news that a commander of the Chicago Police Department was killed in the line of duty at the time of our taping, shortly beforehand. His name, I don't think, is very important, but rather that there's a loss not only in the law enforcement community, but also in a family, the family of the fallen officer. Now that family is the family at home, but it's also that police family. All of the folks that he worked with, okay, and supervised, they're suffering from that loss as well. So I want you to think a little bit about, and I want us to talk a little bit about and think about the importance, and we've talked about this a lot, of police in our communities and in our daily lives. I was talking to my friend Norma, who's been a police officer for, wow, it's hard to believe, 25 years. Because I remember when she was testing and got hired, I was in the midst of, I think her first day of work. She called me, and I remember I was trying to get into a television station when I was in college. I went to school after everybody else. And I remember her calling me saying she was hired, and I think it was her first day. And I said, that's funny, because tomorrow I'm going to be going down to the television studio and doing some work on shows. And I was really excited about that at the time. And what's funny is she's had the same job for these 25 years, and Greg has done lots of different things. So it's kind of funny. So she talks retirement from police work, which she has earned. She's a sergeant, and I'm just so proud of her. She's somebody who went out, made the sacrifice, did what she had to do. She has taken every single assignment that's ever been given her and just made things go, because she really realized that, you know what, they're giving me an opportunity to do something different. And obviously they see something in me that maybe they don't see in other people, and I'm going to go and do it. So some of the most horrific assignments, you know, considering like police officers are out on the street or doing things like that, she's taken other assignments. In addition to being on the street, kicking rear ends and taking names, as they say, not literally, but you know what, when we kick ass and take names, it means that we're doing a job, doing it to the best of our ability, and getting things done. So I applaud Norma as she is getting ever so close to retiring, and yours truly is still trying to figure it out. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit tonight about, you know, the police aspect, what a loss like this means, and the importance that they play in our lives. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that at the beginning of the show. I just want people to know that when a police officer falls in the line of duty, regardless of who they are, it affects a multitude of people. And it's unlike anything you're ever going to see. Because you know what? Police are held to a different standard than you and I. And the reason why is because they have powers that you and I don't. They have the ability to arrest and detain us. They have the ability to take our lives in a situation. And because of that, you know, we probably think that they're like Superman or superheroes and that they don't have problems. And they come to work with the same issues in life that you and I might have with our wives or our husbands, our kids. And at the end of the day, they want to go home, and they deserve to go home. And today, unfortunately, the commander did not get to go home. So in my thoughts and prayers, the commander and the Chicago Police Department, who are mourning the loss of one of their own, and other police departments that go through that on a daily basis in different parts of the world and different parts of the country. So, sometimes people want to talk to me and say, oh, but you know how you are about the police. And, I worked in a police department, so I have a different perspective on it. And it was fun, and it was and who says that it was fun, but it was a roller coaster. The first responders, the people on that desk, they don't get the information. The officer on the street is lost. So it's teamwork and going hand in hand. So what they dealt with on the street, we dealt with on the phone. And it was a different level of stress, but we absolutely went through the roller coaster. And read stories about people that are, experiencing stress because of that line of work and the hours. I remember when an officer was shot and killed in Riverdale. And I hadn't worked there in years, but I got a phone call. And it affected me. I was like, I never knew anyone that was shot and killed. And I went to school with his sister, and I worked with him when he first was hired. And I see what it did to the department and to the people and the pain that they felt about that. So it's very real when, we hear so much about officer-involved shootings when they have to shoot somebody. It's nothing that's celebrated when a life is taken, whether it's the good guy or the bad guy. And I just hope that the next time that you're pulled over or detained, that you'll think about that and, approach that person with a certain amount of respect that they deserve for what they do on a daily basis. So, don't you have anything better to do than pull me over? And the other thing that's lost in all of this is that there's a sense of humor. It's a culture. There's a culture in police work that people don't understand. So when things are said, people don't understand it. And when we look at black and white, we should conduct ourselves professionally at all levels, all the time. We're not perfect people. So let's start cutting us some slack, okay? I'm going to cut myself some slack because I've been very difficult on myself and whatever. Anyway. We are going to be talking about that. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. And I'm so glad that you're joining us for this week's program. And we're going to continue in just a moment. I'm Greg. This is the Greg Struss Show, and we are we are reinventing community television here from the west side of Chicago. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back in just a moment. Follow me, since you're so critical of everyone else. Let's hear it for this guy. He's not only doing the announcing, but he's also doing the camera and all kinds of stuff. How you doing, Scott? Anyway, this is great. It's the same line every week. I love it. I think I'm the only one that appreciates it too. Some people have been asking me about Scott, like where is Scott? Because Scott was involved with the show for a long time. And as I mentioned a few shows ago, we've made some changes here. And I never once thought about what a breakup would be like, a professional sort of breakup. Scott and I did shows way back, go back a long time ago, and he was an integral part of the original show that we did in Dalton, Illinois for 5.5 years. And then, I went on to some other things. He went on, did his thing, and then about 5.5, almost 6 years ago, we came out here, started doing the show. And the show was not the show that I had planned. The show kind of evolved into something else, like a conversation piece, like what we're doing right now. And it'll continue to evolve. And, there just came a point in time where it no longer worked. The relationship no longer worked. And unfortunately, that happens. And, we either continue to go on and do something else, or we go at it alone. And it's been a different adjustment out here. And I realized that, if I want to do more, something more with a show, it requires more effort. It requires more people. It requires more energy. And I got to get that fight back, because I am coming up on a milestone. I've had several milestones. One is 8 years, and I don't share this a lot because it's something personal and private, but I feel that it's important to share because it tells me that, I don't want to say that it's so much an accomplishment, but to say that I went 8 years without drinking is a milestone, considering where I was at one point in my life, 8.5 years ago, 8 years ago, going through some life changes and things that I just didn't have my handle on. And getting involved and, trying to take care of things as they were. And it took a long time, and I just kind of blink of an eye, and here I am 8 years later, having not participated in any of that. My life has changed a lot. I certainly don't hang out in bars. I don't go to parties. I don't do a lot of that stuff anymore. Not that that was like a favorite thing of mine, but I think it's really important to, keep track of those little things that are really big things. Because there's some people that can't go a day or two without a drink right now. And it's been good not to be able to do that. I feel good that I'm not able to do that. And I don't know. I don't really know why I'm sharing it, but I felt like I needed to share it with somebody, right? It's not a pat on the back to say, hey, Greg, you went 8 years without getting messed up. You went 8 years without doing this. To be honest with you, I grew tired of it. And I'm growing tired of tired of some other things right now that I need to change. But I know I'm better for it. And I thank you for allowing me to share that with you. That's just a little bit of a milestone. So anyway, I got together with somebody last week who I felt needed someone to talk to and maybe some guidance. And that's the helper in me. And what I've learned is that helping others, I'm really helping myself. That's the selfish part of it. However, I have also, I've also come to grips with the fact that when I do help people, no good deed goes unpunished. So here I am on my day off, and this individual gave me a call, and I said, okay, so let's go meet. And I met, and he shows up, he's completely messed up, and talking about how he wants to go into intensive outpatient therapy. Okay, intensive outpatient is when someone goes into treatment for addiction, and they go for several hours during the day. So they'll go for counseling, there'll probably be a group setting, maybe one-on-one, and then maybe an exercise that's assigned for the night. And the main thing is, and they test you, right? They test for alcohol or for other drugs. And if you test positive, they kick you out of the program. And I think it's okay, because if I don't, and I'm going to speak for me, if I don't want to get well and I don't want to change, and I'm just going through the motions and I'm taking up space in a room where someone else can be, I think it's okay to say, you know what, you're not ready. So as I'm sitting here and the individual shows up highly intoxicated, I'm just like, so what do you think is gonna change? How do you think this is gonna work for you? And he really wasn't able to say it, other than he thought I was being mean. I was being very forthright and very firm in saying, I think you're wasting your time. Now, as a professional, okay, as a certified alcohol drug counselor, that doesn't make me an expert in addiction. Doesn't make me an expert in anybody's life. What it does make me is aware of the signs of, the desire, okay, the desire to change. And if I'm doing things that don't support my recovery, going to intensive outpatient, that's recovery work. I mean, that's part of recovery, right? You go in, you start getting, start hearing the word, and then they send you to an AA meeting or two. Now, this is someone who's been in AA, goes to meetings drunk, goes to functions drunk, and I finally hit him right on the head and I asked him, I said, so what makes you think that going to AA and going to AA functions where many people have either given up the drink or are serious about stopping, don't you think that's kind of selfish? And he's like, man, Greg, that's cold. You're being difficult. You're not being supportive of me. I said, because you know what? You're not ready. You're not ready. And I'll tell you why you're not ready. Because you just told me that, yeah, you don't have a steady job, which is important to have in recovery when I want to make change. Why? Because having structure gives me things to look forward to. So let's say I'm working at the factory or I have a new gig working, a professional job someplace. And I have to get up at a certain time. I have to show up. I have to work. I have to get there. Then I have to come home and I have to figure it out for the rest of the night. If I'm not ready or actively doing things to change my behavior, the likelihood of me being able to reach abstinence, meaning stop the use of whatever it is that I'm doing, is all for naught. I can go to 100 AA meetings, and if I don't want it, it isn't going to work. Now, there's some people that believe that AA is the only way. I think differently. I think there's a lot of different ways. And I think that if somebody is open, okay, because part of the program is the how, okay, what we say how is honest, open, willing. And really, if we apply that to our life on a daily basis, I really think that that's where the secret is. Okay, am I being honest? Am I being open? And am I being willing in anything? All right, anything that's whatever. So let's say my employer comes up to me and says, Greg, I want you to do something X, Y, Z. Well, I don't know how to do it, but can you show me? All right, well, I have the willingness. All right, they're going to show me how. And I'm open-minded because why? They asked me to do something. I'm paid to do the job, and I want to learn something new. Okay, so in recovery, the how begins with the honesty. Do I want to change? Do I have a problem? Am I open? Am I open to hearing it? Am I open to hearing whatever that message is that applies to my life and applies to me? All right? I'm an individual. My life's different than other people. Their lives are different than mine. And when somebody tells me, like this individual has, I can't believe you only had one DUI. And you got it. You're the only person I know. And it was, I don't like to talk about it. I share it because it's out there. I share it because hopefully there's a lesson in it for somebody, that they don't have to go through it. Because you know what? A DUI, and this is, as I was counseling people in DUI class later on, how many are you going to get another one? And I'd see the hands. Oh, I don't know. You don't know if you're not going to get another DUI, which is 100% avoidable. But when people drink, they lose their inhibitions, and the risk-taking becomes great. And I don't want to listen to anybody else, because you know what? If I go get a taxi, it's $20, $30, and my car's just out here. Never mind that I will lose my car, because in Chicago, it's $2,000. I don't know any of you know it. And this is one of the reasons I never let anyone use my car. There's a couple people I'll let use my car. But more often than not, it's no. Because if somebody gets picked up with booze or narcotics in a car in the city of Chicago, they take that car, it's $2,000 automatically, plus whatever the towing and the storage is. So if you got a beater and you let your friend borrow it, are you going to go spend $2,000 to get your beater out of the thing? So no, you lost a car by helping somebody. I always say, no, I'll give you, I'd rather give you a ride. People know not to ask me because it's just like with all the red light cameras now and everything else, it's just, and people aren't honest, and people aren't open, and people aren't willing. So what happens? What's the end result in that? So I think it's kind of interesting how that plays into other parts of life, and that people kind of lose, as we're working on that recovery stage in our life, how simple it is. It's not just about addiction anymore. It's about getting my life back. It's about doing things that add meaning and purpose to who I am. It's about giving back. It's not being selfish anymore, which all of us are. I'm selfish. I don't let anyone use my car. Anyway, we'll continue with this story, getting together with somebody, because I think what's important is realizing, who am I spending my time with? Is this somebody that adds, is this someone that I can help? Why do I want to help this person? How can I help them? And do they want help? And really, unless someone asks for the help, I probably have no business saying anything. But we'll be back in just a moment to discuss this further. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And we are back, coming to you almost live and almost direct from Cable Television City here in the west side of Chicago. Greg Struss with you once again as I drop my phone, which I'm using as my timer, but that's all a different story. Anyway, we were talking about that honest, open, and willingness and how it applies to things in life and relationships, and obviously we're talking about the recovery side of things. Recovery, when somebody decides to make that change, or moving on from drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever those things are. Risky behaviors is something that somebody once described it as. Now, for the person who suffers from depression, I knew a dummy that stood in the window with the clothes on, and he suffered from mannequin depression. And that was at the store. Bad joke from FX the movie. I don't know if you remember it. Mannequin depression. Remember that. Anyway, so with this individual I was meeting with, I said, John, if you're not taking your medicine, if you're not taking your antidepressant, if you're not on the right medication and you're drinking, or you're on the medication and drinking, it's really for naught. So you got to realize, okay, the importance of treating both conditions, all right? I have to treat my addiction. How? I go in the hospital, and let's say I've drank so much that I'm suffering from alcohol poisoning, or on the verge of doing that. So they'll medically detox the individual for a period of 3 days and then release them. And then, there's no message there. The message is that, I go in, I get cleaned up, and then I go back out and I do it again. Heroin users are, doctors, I used to think that when I was working in a methadone clinic that doctors are so unethical and dishonest that, they would let someone leave or they won't treat somebody. Because what happens is a lot of these folks will go into the emergency room, tie up services. They need to stay for a week because of hepatitis flare-ups or what have you, open wounds, and they decide not to because they have that craving. They have to go out. There's a sickness. They have to go out and find that drug. They're not ready to change yet. So as I'm getting back to this individual who's completely messed up, as I'm sitting there, I can't even believe I was trying to have a rational conversation with somebody who was out of their mind. And then trying to make sense of it and getting frustrated on my day off in the midst of all of it. But I just said this to him, Bob. I'm like, if you're not ready, don't do it. You're wasting your time. Now, I would rather somebody, and that's just my personal opinion, and it's my professional opinion as a substance abuse counselor. All right? The training involved in that. And absolutely, like you grow up in an alcoholic. My father was an alcoholic. Grandparents were alcoholics. Everyone was an alcoholic. And I always said, I'm not going to become an alcoholic. I'm never going to drink. And then life happens, and all of a sudden, go through some bad times, and what do? You kind of self-medicate. So there's pain in that. But if I don't have the willingness and I don't have the support system from the right people, and I'm not working, and I'm not doing things that add value and meaning to my life and build my self-esteem, the chances are likely I am not going to succeed at it. And sometimes you think, well, he's got his mom and dad, he lives at home. I'm sorry. Mom enables, dad enables. And enabling means what? They're living my life. They don't have any expectation of me. They just want me to, they want to know that I'm home or that I'm okay. And that's it. And they probably can't stand me being home, but we don't know what to do. And it's always the same story over and over and over again. But I really feel that by the time somebody's 40 years old, I really do. I think there's something wrong with it. So does the family have to go for help? Absolutely. The family has to go for help as well. And some of the ways that they do that is Al-Anon or working with a counselor one-on-one. And everybody getting on the same page that certain behavior is not going to be tolerated anymore. It's developing boundaries and having a certain expectation. Now, one of the things that I used to always hear about was, oh, well, you can't have expectations of people. You know, when you have expectations of people, you're going to be let down a lot. And that's been a very important, you know, lesson for me. I've had a lot of letdowns, and I've had a lot, and they were usually related to having an expectation of somebody. And I think as a friend or as a brother or a relative, I think there's a certain expectation that I'm going to be treated a certain way. There's an expectation that there's going to be a certain amount of respect in the relationship. I think those things are okay. But if I expect someone, you know, to do something or do something the way I would do it, I'm setting myself up for failure because that's not about me. That's about them. So who am I spending my time with? You know, it talks about the people in my life. Who are the people I spend time with? And you know, I used to spend a lot of time with people. And now I don't spend a lot of time with people. And that's not a good place to be either, because I'm a man of the people. And getting back out there. So it takes time, it takes effort. And I think that's really what it is. And you know what else it takes? I think it takes a certain amount of courage to say that I'm not going to accept this anymore. And that it's ultimately up to me to make the change. And if people are there, great. If they're not, I don't know. And I've been there. I've been there where there was nobody. I felt there was nobody. Or there was somebody, but it came with conditions. And it's ultimately up to me. I am in charge of my own life, my own well-being, and my own destiny. It's not up to anybody else. And if it hasn't gone the way that I wanted to, it's on me. Life doesn't always go as we plan. And I've had an understanding of people, I've had an understanding of a situation. Here's the other thing. People are not going to build me up. People are not going to build me up. Why? Because it's not their job to build me up. Now, people will keep me down. Why? Because if I'm doing better than someone else, it makes them think that, wow, what is he doing that I'm not doing? So it's, and I think family plays a lot into this situation, you know, of getting well again. And it's okay to say, you know what, Mom, I got to pull the plug for a while. I can't deal with you. Or sis, or brother, or cousin, or whoever it is. And it doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me someone, it makes me a person that needs to change. And that my life is important. And it's more important than the other person. Because the other person isn't looking out for Greg. Greg's got to look out for himself. And I think that's what's really important in all of this. So we talked about a lot of things. I don't know if we made, if I made the point about change, right? Change begins when I'm honest.